Alper, you also mentioned the importance of social learning. How does that, in your mind, work where education is becoming more and more remote and work is becoming more and more remote? What are the things we need to put in place and how do we keep learning social?
I think I come from the postmodern thinking with my, if you look at my, let's say, academic background, I'm an engineer converted into organizational development consultant with the doctorate. And what I learned with my learning is, I think the mechanical view of organizations, including the educational institutions, are actually coming from the thinking of two mechanical engineers, the Taylor and Ford, and highly influenced everything we got. It's got its time, it worked at the time, but now we are in a totally different era. So, what we know, what an organization is just simply a group of people who are together and having conversations. This is the simplest sense of organization for me. And anything we attribute to an organization as a product, as a headquarters, as a logo, is always a frozen version of some conversations taking at a certain time. So for me, doesn't matter whether it's physical or remote. We've seen with the pandemic that organizations continued without the buildings, without the headquarters, without the branches or whatever, because we continued our conversations in the different form. So for me, a quality of an organization, any organization, whether educational or business, is defined by the quality of its conversation. So, how do we enable and engage and encourage these conversations? And that's possible remotely. We are in a conversation right now. And the quality of that conversation is the quality of this podcast. And the same with our university. So if we don't enable the conversation, if you just make it one way teaching, make it with technology, make it in the campuses, that is not a complete organization in my perspective. So that's how we try to do it remotely.
You make me think about um, the young people who are playing games and working in, using some of the very sophisticated games engines. Um, and they form teams with people from all over the world. And these teams last for years sometimes. And there's a very strong identity with these teams. And for all intents and purposes, they are real. And these are very real relationships. And yet they may never have met any of these people except within the gaming engine. So it is possible as humans to have social interaction within the gaming space and within the digital space. Do you think it's vital though that for learning we we also get together physically with other people, or do you think the next generation doesn't need that?
I think it's just different mediums. I mean, I will give examples from our learning approach. You know how we make that possible. It is just a different medium. You know, it's whether you meet in Zoom or whether you meet in a room. I think it's for me just a different take. But I think enabling these relationships and conversations, whatever the circumstances, are critical. So in our learning process, a student are offered these different social environments. So you mentioned about the gamers teams. We structured that into the program as what we call action learning sets. The sets of 4 to 7 people in the cohort. They they are brought together in the beginning of the program, and they stay together throughout the program. They are buddies, they learn together. And we used to have that in our traditional universities education. I remember my best 4 or 5 friends, we would come together before the midterms and final exams, study at somebody's home or dormitory or whatever. So we formalize this as a one way of social learning, but it doesn't stop here. We also have live workshops, for example, other than the digital learning that is anytime, anywhere. That live workshops create interaction and engagement. We don't teach anything on the live workshops, but we just create sense making opportunities in an interactive way with the students. So that's the second one. We also have mentors that the students can relate to if they want to, get some wisdom and advice for their practice learning to make sense of some of the assignments they do. So they have that. So we encourage all of these learning relationships to be an active part of the learning process. And this is how I see the social learning.